Welcome to the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a well-rounded, happy, goal-crushing athlete. Every week, myself, sports journalist Molly Herford, and cycling coach and kinesiologist Peter Glassford interview experts and chat through all of your training questions. We're excited to have you along for the ride. Hello. Welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. Peter, how's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, we're hot off of the Nationals weekend for mountain biking, so that was exciting to watch both for the U.S. and Canada and a few other countries around the globe. So I hope if that was part of your weekend, that went well for you. And then also we had a few other races. There's big mountain bike races out in Maine and I guess all over the place. So yeah, so it's been fun continuing to watch races. And then also, as I always say, it's a little nerve-wracking as well.
Yeah, I've also been watching races. I've been doing a lot of the coverage with bicycling magazines at bicycling.com for the Tour de France. And this year we're actually doing something kind of interesting where we're looking at all of the stages, but actually talking about what your everyday rider can learn from the pros. So it's been really fun to watch and be thinking through like, okay, what can we talk about today? What's relevant to the readers that we're actually like learning from the tour? Mm-hmm. Because as we talk about on here, often what the pros are doing is really not necessarily what we would suggest that any of us are doing. So,
well, few of us are racing in the Tour de France, I guess.
Yeah. If you are and you're listening, thanks.
You should get back to it. Yeah, it's not over yet.
What are you doing? Yeah, take out that radio.
Okay, and then the Queen stage, I'm sure, is amping up and getting ready for the women's tour presented by Zwift. There's a better phrase for that.
There's a way better phrase for that. Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift is coming up starting August 1st. So the nice thing is if you've been watching the Tour de France, there's actually a 5-day, basically weekday break between the two. Which frankly, I'm incredibly thankful for because it gives me a chance to get out on a bit of an adventure and take a break from being glued to my screen. Right. I feel like my screen time has gone. I really need to I need to wear my blue light blockers, to be honest, because I have been watching a lot. But on the note of your and my comeback to cyclocross, don't call it a comeback. I've actually been riding the trainer during the stages just to try to get my bike legs back. And I said to you yesterday, I finally feel like after this days of riding, of training, I finally feel like biking is back to feeling normal for my legs because, I mean, honestly, despite how much I love cycling and like love the culture and everything around it, I haven't really been riding that much in the last couple of years because my running goals have been pretty big. Mm-hmm. So it is a transition. So anyone that says like, oh yeah, cyclists can totally run and runners can totally bike. Yes. And it's a transition.
Yeah, especially if you don't do much, right? Like both sports, especially running, like if you're a cyclist coming to running, there's obviously more like impact and neuromuscular stuff that has to happen. You got to become bouncy. So it is nice to keep that in the mix. We talked a bit about skipping in the last couple of episodes. That can be helpful, but just sprinkling those in, definitely like a little bit in there can like really help with coming back. But then also there is those like actual specific adaptations that do take more in the months and years that need to be done. But I'm sure you'll be up to speed in no time.
Up to speed is maybe pushing it, but we're going to try. And, to really, really, actually, you know what? I'm going to wait till we talk about our question to get into what I'm up to this coming weekend. Yeah, this week we're talking about kind of a bummer of a topic, which we try to avoid doing here, but we felt like it's become obviously so more and more prevalent that we kind of can't avoid it. And that's what to do when your race gets canceled. We've been seeing it a lot lately, whether it's for wildfire smoke, whether it's for extreme heat, extreme rain, extreme weather conditions.
Yeah.
And it's been happening for a couple of years. This is not to say this is the first summer that it's ever been an issue, right? Like Mid-South was canceled 2 years ago because of wildfires. At the same year, we were in Turkey, Texas for Valley of Tears, and that race was cut short for a snowstorm that hit Texas in March.
Yeah, and so I went through and I was like, is this an actual thing? And it's like, yeah, well, it seems like it. But there has been, of course, research in this direction. And sort of in the last 20 years, there's certainly been more disruptions, cancellations, whether you're looking at outdoor. In Canada, especially, we have a lot of like outdoor music festivals. So they can sort of gauge that, like how much. And we actually just had one canceled with the Lumineers just over the last weekend. as well. And then we also have lots of stuff that's snow based, right? So I didn't even think about that, but things like in Ottawa, our nation's capital, they have like a canal that you can skate on, but like it's often closed. So then I didn't even think about how like that would be like an event. We don't have ice, like you can't skate on the ice. So there's things like that do it. And then I guess the other thing that's sort of changing things is maybe post-pandemic, economic, whatever. You're having some of these financial things where it's tougher to run an event, costs of things like insurance going up. So now it's harder for event organizers to just sort of like go through and hope it works out, because they're trying to do like the math just isn't mathing on some point, right? So when you're an event organizer and there's low pre-registration, or it's looking like the event's going to have really bad weather, it is hard to go through that.
Yeah. And we should add, like, very obviously, climate change is in fact changing the landscape of racing. When you said you're doing your research, we already knew climate change was an issue.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, there's like you hand wring that, but like on some point, like I've never seen wildfire smoke until these last 2 years in my entire life, right? So there's these things like there used to be ice in the thing. So something is different in the last 20 years, however you want to frame that, I guess. But
yes, when I woke up to apocalypse, like skies over Collingwood, I asked you a couple of days ago, I was like, do you ever remember this? Because I'm new up here. I didn't know if that was more of a, oh yeah, I remember back in the summer of 2007. No, this is all very new.
Sure. Yeah. And so in Southern Ontario, that's sort of like it's novel, I guess, or like a new thing. But I thought, this thing, as much as it's a bummer to talk about that type of thing, it is like a current event and a question that like I looked in my email, and like a lot of times we do these questions and I sort of like look back to like different exchanges I've had with people, and maybe I find one or two, but like race canceled, like there was like 5 clean results that were basically like for different reasons. And I said to you, like, it's not all wildfire. That's the last 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 with the Leadville stuff going on right now. But there's also, what else did I say? There was like something that there was like flies just were really bad at a race in Utah, like so much that like this running race was going to be like very miserable because it was like this once or never seen before like fly hatching thing that was just going to be like not workable. It got so bad. So that's sort of like odd. And then what was the other one I mentioned to you?
Low registration.
Oh, right. Yeah. And so this is like the thing where someone messaged me and was like, I didn't pre-register, but then the race got canceled and now I'm upset. And it's like, well, okay, you could have probably pre-registered if you wanted to go to this race and help the organizer out.
Which I think kind of does come down to a lot of us now are hesitant to sign up for races because of the common cancellations or because of the weather and stuff. So you don't want to sign up, but then it's like, well, the race isn't going to get run if people don't sign up. And then there was gravel nationals here in Canada got canceled midway through, which is not the exact same as the question being asked, like my race is canceled, but like actually arguably that one hits almost harder in some ways.
Yeah,
right?
I guess they're different because there's like, it's the same in the end because like on the next day, you're going to be sitting there maybe saying, okay, this was a shorter race than I thought it was going to be. Should I adjust my training, my race schedule because maybe this load wasn't as big as I expected? So
the answer to that, by the way, is don't do it. You're a dummy.
Right. And I guess we should mention, you probably going there, but like you also had a shortened race where you also were like, oh, I only ran 100K. I can just start running the next day because it's not very much running because I was going to run 100 miles, but you're like, you did run 100K.
Pretty quickly. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly where I was going, which again was a weather phenomenon, almost the reverse of what we're talking about, where it poured and it was freezing. But these unlikely weather events or these like weird weather events are just becoming more and more common.
And maybe the other thing we can sprinkle into this is like, these are also questions that I get all the time and that we as athletes must deal with is, oh, I don't know if X life event with my family is going to affect my race and I won't be able to go. Oh, I have a knee pain. Should I go? Maybe I won't be able to go if it gets worse. So there's all these things that also just like races, when I say canceled, like the race isn't going to happen. It isn't going to happen in the way you expected. What do I do with my training?
Yeah, and I thought what was interesting is so you put some of the different emails that you've got and you dropped what the people have said into our show notes here. And as I was looking through, it's a really interesting gamut of like knee-jerk responses to a cancellation, right? For some people, there actually is like relief of not having to make a decision, and they seem pretty fine with it. It's just more of a what do we do now, training-wise.
Yep.
You have people that are actively saying like, hey, now I'm really like unmotivated to keep training because this thing is canceled or because the thing might be canceled.
Yep.
You have people that are really like heartbroken about it, honestly, which is a very real feeling.
Yeah, the one there around, because Silver Rush, so if everyone's not watching, like actually the Leadville, we'll say, situation right now is pretty dire. Like it's not great. They canceled the Silver Rush 50 miler, and then they usually come into, there's a stage race this coming weekend in July, one of the last weekends in July. And then quickly we get into like the main show of the big 100-mile run and race. But the course has been like affected by wildfire, and like it doesn't look like they're going to be able to run the race through that section. The course has always been the same. So likely it's going to run is what they're saying, but likely it's going to be a modified course. So this is like really developing as we watch this. It's sort of exciting and also nerve-wracking and maybe disappointing or angering or whatever, right? There's all the emotions there, but it's like a developing situation. So the one person had said in their email, right, like they're 50. Do you want to read that one even, like, or sort of paraphrase it, like 50 and I was so disappointed?
Yeah, so they do say, I know safety comes first and it's out of people's control, but I can't help feeling completely deflated. I've been training since January. I'm over 50 and I think I'm the fittest I've ever been. My family has sacrificed a lot to support this too. The replacement races don't work with my schedule, and honestly, they're just not Leadville. I'm proud of the work I've put in, so like we're recognizing that, but right now that's not making it sting much less. And then someone else, same exact thing. Silver Rush is canceled. Leadville is kind of question marky. And their thing is, how do you deal with the uncertainty like this and the feeling of having put so much into something that might not go forward? Mm-hmm. It sucks.
Yeah. And I mean, on some level, there's like the overarching, like that's bike racing. And that's why I sort of mentioned sometimes you get knee pain, sometimes you get the flu, sometimes, someone knocks you over before you even get to the course and they break your leg and you can't, even start the race. Or sometimes that happens right on the start and you can't even like do anything in the race. And sometimes it happens on the first descent. Sometimes it happens on the last descent. And that's bike racing, right? Like it's just, it's as what did Adam Meyerson say? It's just
stupid bike racing, but it's everything.
Yeah. So I think some of this stuff is not novel, and as the athlete, we can also compartmentalize and isolate. Yes, there's the overall global existential dilemma, but as our athlete selves, we want to think in our training about like what can we control, when do we have to make the decisions. And so what I usually try and do with athletes is we're going to keep training. Almost everyone does not intend for like this one Leadville race to be the last race, and anything like that. So it is all beneficial what we're doing for training. I think you just continue until you get like the word from the event organizer that it is canceled. And then in terms of things like, I know there's also this calculus and this math, understandably, because none of it is cheap, around cancellations and deferrals of accommodation, of travel, of the race even. And a lot of those will have deadlines. So what you need to do is you need to get into your calendar, figure out when the first lost opportunity is. So this is where you lose money. And that would be the day we make the decision. But you try and not just have that floating in your subconscious every day for 4 weeks leading into the Leadville 100. Like just put it on the calendar with a nice big reminder that says like, today is the day where we assess. Like, is this more likely to go forward? Do we feel comfortable with the amount of risk? Or is this the day that I call it? And then in which case we can rejig training and decide what we do, which we will talk through that today, sort of like how we look at that modified event day.
Yeah. And I think if the race actually is canceled, it is okay to, mourn it for a bit. Like, It's okay to feel the feelings. But I think if you genuinely feel after a few days of being bummed about it, I think if you genuinely feel demotivated, like, oh, I don't want to train anymore, like, what is the point? I think that might actually be more of a sign to think about we always talk about can you prepare for the goal that you've set? And do you want to?
Right.
So I do think there might be some backing out and a bit of like looking at your training as a whole. Like, do you not enjoy doing this training and this sport that you're doing? Like,
yeah. Because there's that like cliche of like the journey should be like the main like thing that's worth it. Yeah, all the adventures on the way.
Yeah, because I read that first email and it's I think I'm the fittest I've ever been. I mean, yes, I'm sad for you that Leadville might not happen or that Silver Rush didn't happen, but I mean, holy crap, like how great is that, right? Like,
yeah, that's pretty cool at 50. Yeah.
That's how I felt at, 37 at Leadville. And I mean, I snapped my ankle halfway through, so I didn't get to finish it, but I was the fittest I've ever been. Like, I was so ready for that race.
Yeah. And was like crushing, right? Like you're in the podium, you're in the news,
Yeah.
and everyone's watching. Yeah. Like,
and I mean, like, does that still choke me up a little bit? Like,
sure
as we're talking about it right now,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. But that's just bike racing. In this case, it's just running, but it doesn't come off the tongue quite as well as like that's just bike racing. So I don't know why run racing is different, but syllables are the same.
It's just racing, but it's everything.
I think bike racing is probably more fickle, to be honest.
I think so, because there's a lot more. I mean, yeah, there's a lot.
Just like you can get a flat, like, you know what I mean? Like you could blow your shoelace, but like running, like from a mechanical standpoint, rarely is it like that limited.
And biking, I think there's a lot more things that can happen outside of you with other people.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can get crashed out. In running, it's rare that you
Most
get
events.
just like.
Like I said, I feel like it's like steeplechase or something. People are always just knocking into each other. But
yeah, exactly. That might be the one time where, it's the same kind of situation. But anyway, to that point, like, yes, I was really bummed about how Leadville went, but I was also really happy with like who I was showing up at that race. And it did, I did change what I did after that, though. Like, that was a moment in time. We got rid of the altitude tent and I shifted my training, and I'm a different racer now than I was then. But that's life. Like, that's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and I guess that's the way I'm sort of thinking, like, yes, there's the existential thing, but like if we can sort of compartmentalize for a second and just say, like, this could have been for any number of reasons. You didn't get you DNS or you DNF. These are very common. And yes, some people have never done those things, but usually it's you just haven't done enough of the thing.
I used to have a Death Before DNF bumper sticker on my truck when I was younger and dumber.
Yeah.
We sold that truck.
And so maybe those people say, they've never DNF'd under their own, accord. They wouldn't even let you start or something, right? So I think we just say, like, you move on to the next thing, assuming that is what you want to do. But as you've said, like, you can also pivot. If there's something about doing, I've had a few people like this where they're like, it's just so much training. I just want to train for shorter bike racing. Right. And not that they don't ever go out and do like longer rides with their friends, but it's just not the emphasis of their training. They don't feel the pressure to do that type of riding. Sometimes it's something like a Leadville Unbound is pushing you to be very like more gravel road riding, whereas someone might actually just be a mountain biker, pure and wants to be out on mountain bike trails more often and racing actual mountain bike races. No offense to Leadville. But that's maybe part of it. So it's like, okay, well then next year I'll just train for something more technical, and that's completely okay to pivot away from that.
Yeah, to me, I think the demotivation following a cancellation or a potential cancellation is actually just like a major sign to reevaluate, like not training in general, but the exact sport you're doing.
Yeah. And so that might be a thing where you could pivot. That might be like look for a refund rather than the deferral for that particular event, or a credit that you could put to a different event maybe that the people run. Okay, well then let's think through those. There was a couple of like sort of stepping through that, I guess, that I had, right? Where so people will say, okay, this let's go with Leadville stage race. It's coming up. It gets canceled. Do we do 3 days of, virtualizing this where we replicate the race at home, or if you live nearby, but it's not, it's possible to do the event? This happened more in COVID. I know some people, we have an interview coming out with Eldon Nelson, who's done Leadville many times, and that's actually what they did during the pandemic. But he said actually in hindsight, he wishes he didn't go and like ride the course, on his own or with his wife. He said it just like didn't have the feel, and it wasn't like necessarily like worth it, I guess. So that would be one thing, is like, should we simulate? Should we just take our bit of rest and then get back to training for something else? Or, we could say we're getting back to just like normal training, right? Versus really pushing on the Leadville build or the whatever type of build, like where we're really crushing it. We're maybe in like monk mode where we're, eating clean and getting in bed early and not socializing. We go back to like normal life, but still with training in it. Until maybe another goal is coming close, or we decide on another goal. So I sort of see as those three things, like, and maybe the second one, maybe I didn't verbalize enough. Like it's like you find a replacement race, right? So there's sort of like simulated on the exact day or nearby. There's the find a replacement race on the same day, which is very hard to do, or in the week or two after, you just sort of like extend your taper, if you will. And then there's
honestly, even in the month or two after, I think just find a replacement race, like sort of within the next, let's say 12 weeks, I would still consider.
Well, and those are all almost like different, right? You almost would say like, okay, like let's not crush ourselves. And that's the thing, is like people want to like beat themselves up a bit, or like get out their anger because it got canceled, but then maybe miss the opportunity. This is where like when you see an elite drop out of a race like Western States or something like that, sometimes, or even a marathon, they can only handle so many marathons at that level. And I would say this is true of the sub-elite and the less elite among us, where we can only handle so many of these big days. And so like the gamble then would be like, if you go and crush yourself and try and simulate this with 100-mile at altitude because you're missing Leadville, then you might be missing the chance to have a really great, as Molly says, in the next 4 to 12 weeks, go back, recover a bit, go back to normal training, build back up and do X race instead. That would be the calculus we're doing, right?
Right. Okay. So that's option 2. And then option 3. So that was kind of like option 2, I guess, is like the immediate race. And then option 3 is building on what you already have and like leading into another race.
And so what I usually like is like, you probably have the time blocked off. I think that's what that first person who was like sort of sad and at the best shape, they're like, I've already blocked the time off. So to me, that's like, go and do like, if you're going to do Leadville and you're at home now instead, go and do like a big 50-mile adventure that's fun. And maybe it does look more mountain bikey if you are a more mountain biker, right? You're now not constrained that it has to be this climbing contest on mostly gravel roads and paths. You could now do something else too, right? It could be just the big group ride on a Sunday or something, and then maybe you ride some more or something. But like, you just don't put yourself in quite the same amount of hole, so that then you can get back to training, whether that's just good normal training, returning to strength training and all these other valuable things that we might have excluded, or it's training to your next goal. Maybe you had another goal coming up in 4, 8, 12 weeks, or you've put another one on the thing as your new A race, we might call it.
Or especially if you've been able to recoup some of the like money lost, or like you've been able to get back like hotels, flights, all that kind of stuff. Especially if we're talking about that example number 1, where they mention how much their family has sacrificed. Maybe this is like a family weekend vacation somewhere. Like maybe you actually go somewhere fun where you want to ride and you bring the family and you actually kind of make it this like celebration type thing.
Yeah. And that might let you go do the 50-mile, but then maybe the family gets to go to a better place than, Leadville's fine and is great. And we love the town. But like, for families, there's only so much to do in a spot like that versus I'm trying to think of like another place in Colorado that might have, I don't know. Boulder has lots of malls and other things you could do, I guess. I like
that this is just like a mall family.
Yeah, your family likes going to malls.
Yeah, obviously.
So those are sort of like the rough way that I think about it. And my advice, if someone's like sort of lost, is usually that we sort of like, don't even like, you don't have to go and replace it. Like, I think we just go back to normal training as sort of, and that's my bias as someone who just really likes going training, and racing is like quite secondary for me or us, I would say.
Well, I think actually we're very lucky in that, as frankly, like climate change keeps changing the landscape of what racing and like what racing is going to look like. I think having that perspective shift of the training is the thing, the process is the thing, the journey is the thing, is incredibly useful now. Like even more so than obviously that was really helpful for us during the pandemic, but I think it's going to progressively become even more useful going forward. At least during the pandemic, there was always the sense of like next year, everything's going to be back to normal. And obviously it took a few years and we're still not back to normal for different reasons. But I think the 2020, like we've recorded this episode before, right? Like we've talked about this in 2020 when everything was canceled, but it felt like that was very temporary. So I think if you were someone who loved racing and like you trained to race, you could tell yourself when this is over, and you kind of knew it was going to be over at some point, everything was going to go back to normal. So you didn't really have to change your mentality. You just had to get through this one thing. I think where we're at now is that racing is going to continue to look different in the coming years, decades, however you want to say, unless a whole lot of stuff changes real fast.
Right. And I think there's the environmental existential part of that, but then there's also just like, there's so many other factors around just even, the finances of these events, the insurance of these events, right? And so, yes, it's overwhelming, and I apologize for that for the listener, but, I think these are just things that we want to think about, like how do we prepare for that as athletes to be resilient and to continue, again, in this like sort of compartmentalized self, how do we continue to train, really?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for that, so I guess like for me, my race did not go as planned back in May, and we could call it environmental. We could call it, I just DNF'd, whatever you want to say, rather than signing up for a new race. Actually, this coming weekend, like a friend and I are doing very similar to what we did in 2020. We did like 100-mile bike ride, stayed over somewhere, ran a trail marathon, not like an official trail marathon, just like we ran 26 miles on trails. And then we biked the Century back, and we're going to do that again next weekend between the tours.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that so much more than any race that I could have signed up for that weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that sometimes like depends on the person, but I think that's to your reflection about like the event and what the event's cancellation or changing like does in your mindset is something worth like playing with, and what does that information give you, right? I think it's also important that like you take that race for you. Like again, you could say only 100K, you are 100-mile race, but like you finished 100-milers and you've won 100-milers. And I mean, that 100K was your fastest 100K and not great condition. So it was also like a great proof of your fitness. You can still say you were the fittest you probably have ever been. Like I would say, like, again, you were like a completely different like athlete than the year before, evidenced by your training going really well and being very good the whole year in between. So like, of course, like I think you can still take that as a win, right? But that's the difficult thing, is that we sort of like ignore some of these indicators that we get both from maybe a race that got cut off early, or something that's completely canceled. Now, it does occur to me too that the other option you could do if you were this person and you're at home, like there are different tests you could put yourself through. Maybe you've done a test before, and that might also give you a bit of that like proof that like indeed you are the fittest.
Yeah, I think the thing about that is like, yes, you're the fittest you've ever been, that's not going away just because the race was canceled. Like, yes, I guess technically the ability to prove that you're the fittest you've ever been.
It sounds like they already believe it. Actually.
Yeah. But like, you're still fit. Like, that's still pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's such a waning like thing, the fitness. Yeah. Yeah. But I get that sense of like when it feels like it's going to disappear, especially if someone's seen it disappear because they've been, inactive for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where know yourself. Like if you've had this, if you've had this kind of thing happen before, if you've gone through like a demotivation thing, especially if you're the kind of person who after your goal race does tend to slump for quite a while before they have another goal race, I think this is a good time to, reevaluate how you're training, like what will bring you joy. Yeah. I've said it. I started doing boxing classes once a week in the last like 2 months, like since that race. And I love it. It's given like this new dimension to my training. It's kind of reinvigorated some of my stuff. And like, I'm still doing all my other training, but adding something completely random and fun.
Which is, we do like this cross-training idea and the community and those things informing and consistency. But for someone who that hasn't like quite found that event fit where it's just like you're good at something, it's easier for you to get out and do the thing, then that is where that sports sampling, trying new things, especially in like a general preparation period of the year. Again, you don't have like an immediate race coming up or a super important race coming up. That would be the time, whether it's sampling within cycling or endurance sport, or as Molly's sort of branching into these other things as well. Because you may find, and we've seen this, people who find like martial arts or I guess does martial arts include boxing? I don't know.
I don't think it does, but I think it's. I would put it under the same umbrella.
Sort of the same thing. Like combat sports. Maybe you like combat sports, or maybe you like soccer, or you just don't know, right? You rediscover that you really love frisbee or something, right? And that doesn't mean you can't be a cyclist as well. You can be multiple things, right? That's the nice thing about being an adult. You don't have to like choose one thing, and that's your sport. So yeah, I think that's a great thought when you're going away from it.
Yeah, and I do actually want to like rewind here a minute to my race was canceled due to low registration thing, because I just said I'm like not racing, but then again, we're also going to race a fair bit of like provincial cyclocross this fall, which we're really looking forward to. So consider this my PSA, my begging everyone, especially in the GTA Ontario area, to register for the local races that you want to do.
Yep.
Your worst case is that you get refunded if they get canceled due to low registration. But if you register early, you have a higher likelihood of these races actually happening.
And maybe a way to think about, this came out of pandemic too, as much as I don't want to talk about that a ton today, but the other strategy that's related to that is like some people get so into this, like, it's called a lottery, right? But into these bucket list races like Leadville, which we love. It's a big part of our business and what we talk about. But those big races are almost like, to me, when I think about investing and you're in like a risky investment environment, is what we're saying because of the cancellations, if this is true. Okay. So then your strategy is like a diversify strategy, but also think about like lower stakes, higher payoff. So these are races you want to do, events types you want to do that are likely to be fun in your local area. So the costs of accommodation and travel are lower, but now you've diversified so that if you lose 2, you still maybe have 8.
Ooh, I love diversifying your racing profile.
Right.
Love
yeah.
this.
And being careful, just putting all your eggs in one basket would be the analogy, right? And
Yeah.
so not that sometimes there are a Leadville a year, but you want to just be careful, like, because it can be crushing. And if you're the type of person that like that one thing is your main focus, and that's one of your strengths is that you can focus on this one thing for an extended period of time, there probably is some caution still that maybe there are some other reasons for being across the years. And that could be other races in this diversified strategy. But I think also looking at a framework, and this is something that I do in phone consults with people, is we lay out that 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 2 decades, where we start tying in what are your values for 2 decades? Who do you want to be in 2 decades? What are the things you want? This is what made me buy a piano and start practicing piano. Was that like, I would think that being able to play music is going to be good, right? And I've talked about like a fear that like if I can't bike, then I'm going to lose a lot of my social and hobbies really if I can't ride my bike. So this is sort of like a strategy for 2 decades and values of having these other things, these like music or whatever you want to call it, other ways to connect with people.
Oh my God, are you going to join a band? Like, am I going to have like just terrible middle-aged men band
for
practice
sure.
in the garage?
It's going to be really geeky for sure. I'm trying to think of a good geeky name. So.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like this at all.
Maybe like
I love this.
Middle-aged men playing Taylor Swift in a jazz format or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, but could you have practices at 6:30 on Friday mornings when I'm away at boxing? That feels fair.
Yeah. Where was I going with that?
I don't know.
Speaking of middle-aged men losing their mind.
Other hobbies, other things, not having
right values, and then the 2 years. So we have the 2 decades. Some people really don't like 2 decades because it's a time into the future.
Well, it's a little rough when you're like 85.
Well, this is it, right? I think it's rough when you're any age, really, when you start thinking ahead. But you're trying to think, okay, this is where we're roughly going. Now, people who don't like that, that's fine. We can say 2 years, which is usually more comfortable. And then it says, I'm doing Leadville this year because next year I want to roll that into, and we think about these as gaining experiences, both through our training and the event. But if the event doesn't happen, we still have all the experiences leading up to that. Maybe there's a couple of big rides, some group rides we do, some skills we learn. Maybe there's some qualifying races or smaller events along the way that are letting us go. And now what are we going to do off of Leadville? We're going to go on a big, multi-day European adventure. We're going to go do a stage race. We're going to go do Unbound, which is longer. What else could we do? Like there's just innumerable things you could roll off of the experience of doing something like Leadville. Now I'm going to do something else. We have one person that I work with who basically became a mountain biker to do Leadville. They've started mountain biking, but obviously there is a whole other world of mountain biking beyond that. So now you can say, after I do Leadville and I've eased into mountain biking in a fairly familiar way for someone coming from gravel road, now I'm going to do an even harder mountain bike race where now I've completed a big long mountain bike race, but maybe now it's more technical and more mountain bikey. Mm-hmm. So that would be the defense too for someone who's maybe like really focused and maybe can't diversify into 10 races across the season. Remember that again, some of these they might be weekly races. We're doing a big sort of not charity but like a fundraising ride for the local youth club here this coming weekend as 100K gravel. It's a big ride, so we're going to do that. So there's all these things that maybe you diversify your weekends and your events and your budget. So that you're not so crushed when that one race you were doing gets eliminated.
Yeah. Okay, I want to hit you with a double negative that I know you're going to hate. But what are sort of some of like the worst things that people can do when the race gets canceled? Give me like the bullet points, because I do think all of this esoteric, like more esoteric thought stuff is really important, and please be doing that. But also, don't make these mistakes.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I cringe a little bit. It's not always wrong, but definitely the needing to go and do like the same thing exactly or more on the day. Just
I'd say probably more is like the more.
And there's a few reasons for that. Like we do get nervous as the what's I don't know if there's like a polite way, but like the urge to exercise becomes a little like what's the word I'm looking for?
Obsessive?
Like, yeah. And there can be, and that's not everyone who does this, but that's like what it starts like the thing is you have a new opportunity when this gets canceled, which is a weird way to phrase this, but you do have now choices with how you spend your time. So there are ways to do this where you could still feel like you're testing your fitness, you're going on an adventure, but don't put you in as much a hole. Like there isn't really a reason to beat yourself up. Like events are beating you up. And so sort of how we've talked about this inverted U, where like if you ride for 3 hours, it's good, 4 hours is good. At some point you're getting excessive fatigue, knee pain, time away from your family, missing time with friends. So to me, like a good Saturday is I ride for about 3 hours in the morning, and then we go and we see people, we go somewhere, we sit on a patio, we get some stuff done around the house. Maybe I sit around and have a nap for a little bit. Maybe I play the piano if I remember in there somewhere, right? Like these days can be very full. And so that's my life. You don't have to do that, but just like, there's no reason that you have to do 100 miles exactly to like make up for the race to prove that you have fitness. So I would say unless someone like really speaks in a clear way about that, I'm always a little hesitant that there's that exact thing that it has to happen on that day at that time.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know. Is there other things that you were sort of had in mind as far as like,
well, that was definitely the main one. I think the other thing would be kind of depriving yourself of things. So you said a lot of people, we do go into that monk mode, right? Like I won't drink for like the week before a big race, that kind of thing. And this is not to say like go out and get sloppy or anything, but for example, if you've had a bottle of champagne or like a special bottle of beer or something like chilling in the fridge and it was for the finish line, it was for like the next day after this race, like don't leave that in the fridge as like I can't have that because I didn't do the race. Or for me, it's always like actually I'm still mad about I screwed this up in May and I'm still mad. We didn't go out for breakfast the morning after my race.
Right.
Like I love going out for like pancakes and bacon and sausage and like a big breakfast the morning after these races.
Right. No, we drove home though, right?
Yeah, we drove. Well, but we went to bed at like 8:30. Like we could have gotten up and gone to breakfast.
Right. Like, and I guess just in case of point, like you could have also, they canceled the race. You could have gotten up that morning and be like, I'm running 60K. And that's where I'm like, I don't know if that's right. So that would be the thing. But yeah, we could have gone for breakfast. So we had breakfast, I guess, at home.
Yeah,
which is
we
nice
had we had exactly our.
But the nice thing is we were able to get home a day early, have a Sunday to clean out and pressure wash everything we owned. And then, again, that's what I mean, where we're sort of like moving ourselves forward for what's next.
For sure. Yeah. I just mean like if you had celebration plans.
Yes. No, I think that's a great point. Yeah.
Don't deny yourself those. And I think a lot of people have them with their families too, right? It's like, we were going to go to the water park the next day, like with the kids.
Yeah, you should definitely still take your kids to the water if you're there. But I'm thinking maybe like, so yes, you should open and say just thank you to everyone for supporting this stupid thing. Like, it's nothing, but it's bike racing, but I appreciate you all for like dealing with the early mornings or whatever. I think that's a great idea, and just celebrate that. Maybe you pour one out for the event organizer and stuff if they are, down a peg or like disadvantaged by the race getting canceled or delayed or ended early.
Yeah. I mean, I think to the point of like this person that said like their family sacrificed a lot for them to be at Leadville or to do Leadville. I think still remember to treat them as though you did, like you got to do Leadville. It's not their fault that the race got canceled. So definitely act as if you did get to do it and thank the crew and volunteers, even if they didn't get to crew or volunteer.
I think the other thing that I see more in the run-in and when it's like, will they, won't they, is that the athlete gets too tied up in things that are systemic. So it's like, you need to keep, if you're going, you're going, if you're just, you have no interest in dealing with it, then like we cancel it and like just be done with it. But if you are going to go, like, I don't get so tied up in the, like, is the wildfire smoke, like, at the safe level? Like, at some point you can assess that, but you don't need to be doing it for the whole week before. And
there's no point, right? Like, we literally, like, this weekend, I think is a case in point, Saturday morning, you got on the trainer and the AQI was terrible in the morning, right? And you said,
well, it was moderate. It's not like ours wasn't terrible.
It was 11 on the weather app, like very bad. You got on the trainer and you joked and said like, I'm getting on the trainer. So it'll be clearer in like 2 hours so you can go run. And funny enough, it was in fact clearer in 2 hours so I could run, but it wasn't supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those weird, like you can keep looking at the like air quality and all that stuff, it's gonna change. Like, especially when you're trying to look like 5 days out and predict, you can't.
Right. And this could be like big weather systems, rain, any of these things that might end up with an event canceled. You know, and even honestly, the attendance and stuff, right? There's only so much you can do as an athlete. So we want to just keep putting ourselves in a good position, the best position we can be in. So this could be preparations you're making. This could be keeping going with your training. Maybe your training has to be indoors or whatever. But we want to have you in the best shape you can. And then, yes, it might all get canceled because the race organizers say we can't run it with these conditions. It's not your choice. Or they're going to run it. And yes, you can do a check of like, do I personally feel safe doing it with that? But you don't make that until we get to the day before. Whenever that first lost opportunity, I think is like a great way to think about it, is like, if you can exit at some point, then like you can make that decision that I'm not interested, I'm going to try it, or I'm going to exit. I don't feel safe with this, and that's okay. But we don't need to be making that decision for like a month into the event. Again, this is where calendar reminders and things like that can be helpful, because we just take it out of our brain and come back to it when we have more information. Mm-hmm. And now on the flip side, like there also is a situation where you get enough information that like you're just done with it, and you can make a decision at that point too.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, make sure that you register for the races that you want to do.
I think so. I think that's a choice that we can make as athletes, right? Is like you can support these races, and there are different insurances popping up too, which you can weigh pros or cons. But a lot of people, I think, just sort of think about it as, you know, you're going to lose one of these across the year. So I don't know, do the math on that, I guess, in your investment strategy.
Well, I think pretty typically when a race does get canceled, they do get refunded. I would say the vast majority of them, like refunded or deferred.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. Sometimes like some of these like last minute like natural disaster ones have been like a little bit like, you know, if you're okay, not, but some will offer like the next year you get a registration out of it. Yeah, but it doesn't always work, right? So yeah, there's risk in everything, I guess.
Speaking of registrations, do you know how you can make registrations really easy if you are running your own event?
Is it payable?
It is payable.
Yeah, okay, great.
See how I did that there?
Yeah, that's a great
Pretty
segue.
good, yeah? Do you want to talk about payable real quick?
Yeah, so we use this for a couple of the events we noted here locally that are running, just sort of low-key, one-off or once-a-year events where it's you just sort of want an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet that has everyone's name, and then you want to know if they paid. And indeed, that's what Payable does. It lets these Google Forms take payments while also collecting all that key information you need.
Yes, so simplifies everything from race registration to t-shirt orders to donations, fundraising, all of that fun stuff. Whether you're starting a subscription service, you need a one-off payment, all of that stuff. You can do it with the Payable add-on for Google Forms, and we have a bunch of our favorite templates over at payableapps.com/athlete. It takes about 3 minutes to set one up, and boom, you are accepting payments that go to your PayPal, Square, Stripe, your usual payment providers. Okay. Anything else to add about races getting canceled other than we're very sorry your race got canceled? That super sucks. Take the beat to be sad about it, and then get back to training in a way that makes you feel excited and happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is just try and always come back to like you like exercising, you like training, you like biking, you like running, whatever you like, and just doing the best you can day to day with it. And again, trying to sort of like decide when you're thinking like your routine, your like little training routine versus the larger global socioeconomic platform or scale of things that you could consider things, right? So sometimes we need to like stay very focused, day-to-day routine, and then we can zoom back out when needed. But you want to be careful that you're not just living in that like super zoomed out view all the time.
Or at least that you're not letting the super zoomed out view keep you from staying fit, healthy, happy, etc.
Right, because again, it's what you enjoy, we assume, but then also that it is going to like put you in a better position for whatever you try and do, right? So like at some point, yes, maybe the training format or style may change a bit if the event were canceled, but in a lot of cases, it's not really that much different than what you probably would do week to week anyhow.
Absolutely. All right, let's wrap up there. As always, hit us with questions, comments, etc. Let us know what you've done when your race got canceled. Over at consummateathlete.com, we have a submission form, or find us on Instagram at consummateathlete. All right, happy training. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. If you want to hear more training, racing, and endurance sport advice, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at consummateathlete.com for a weekly dose of inspiration and advice straight to your inbox.